feel about this. I'm a huge fan of this being a trend. We are already seeing it come back and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. And this might be taboo to say, I have never liked a bar cart. That's how that goes. That's what you like. That's what you like. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. My name is Becky and Happy New Year, Happy 2021. Speaking of the new year, there has been many articles published about people talking about what's going to be trendy this year, what can we expect, what's going to be the hot thing for 2021. And I'm curious to hear what other people think and then maybe give you some thoughts on what I think as well. If you don't know who I am or what this channel is, it's basically a DIY design channel. We have been like DIYing, learning, teaching ourselves about design for the last 10 years. I have no formal training in design at all, but it's such a hardcore passion of mine. I am such a design nerd, especially when it comes to furniture. I love learning about it and hearing what's new. So that's my position on this topic. So yeah, I'm excited to hear what like the professionals think. And then before we jump into it, a couple of things. One, this video is sponsored by Function of Beauty, longtime fan of Function of Beauty. So I'm excited to tell you more about them later. So stay tuned. And two, we are going to be talking about what's trendy and what's going to be in style. But I just want to preface this by saying whatever you like is whatever you like, and don't feel like you need to change anything about what interests you to align with what is supposedly trendy. This is all just fun and interesting, and there's no right or wrong way to do home decor or design. If you like it, and that's all it needs to be. So that's all I have to say on that. Why don't we just jump right into it? So there is going to be one article in particular that we're going to take a look and a deep dive into later. But first, let's just start from the basics. What is a trend? Where does it come from? Who decides it? When does it start? We need to know these things before we can talk about what's going to be trendy. So there are two major sources that trends usually start from, and this can apply to anything from home design to fashion to even music. And the two basic sources are either top-down or like a grassroots indie growth. So the top-down trends are things that come from like the elite designers, the tastemakers, the people that are actually manufacturing and like coming up with these furniture designs and trends. And they're the ones that are producing what's being sold to you, so they're in a way deciding what is trendy. And the grassroots stuff is more things that kind of happens culturally, independently. It's not something that's usually predicted. Something that we're gonna see a lot of that's influencing design right now is this whole work from home movement. It's not something we really expected to see, but it happened, and it's affecting a lot of things in that we want things to be comfortable. And it's affecting things as in like we want things to be comfortable, we want things to be more functional rather than looking pretty because we're staying at home so much, we're using our spaces more, and that's influencing what's being made. So now talking about those top-down design trends, when those are started, it takes a while before they actually end up in stores that are maybe affordable for people like you and I. Like when, I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I know about fashion, but when fashion trends first show up in like Paris and Fashion Week and all that, it takes a while before those exact trends are kind of mimicked in more like mass-produced stores. You guys remember the infamous clip from Devil Wears Prada talking about cerulean blue? I'm gonna insert as much of that clip as my editors think is safe to do so here.
What you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue, it's not turquoise, it's not lapis, it's actually cerulean. And it's sort of comical how you think that you've made a choice that exempts you from the fashion industry when in fact you're wearing a sweater that was selected for you by the people in this room.
And that's on period.
But that's the exact example of something that starts off as a very high level trend, and then eventually it trickles its way down into stores that maybe we average citizens shop at and consider trendy. That's how that goes. So let's actually look at this exact thing happening, but with design and home decor. So we've got this chair here. I would wager that like 99% of you have seen this chair before somewhere. So this chair originally was an Ames chair designed by Charles and Ray Ames in around the 50s, and you can actually buy this chair today on the Herman Miller website, and it will cost you, looks like it's on sale for around $633 if you want the original. So after a thing is trendy on its own from the original source, you end up seeing it in like these more high-end furniture stores such as like West Elm or CB2. So check out this chair. It's on sale at Rove Concepts, which is a more expensive furniture store, and if you want to buy it from them, it's gonna cost you, well, if you're a member, $200, and if you're not, even more than that. Oftentimes these things are licensed replications, which means they're allowed to be made looking very similar, but they're at a lower cost. And more often than not, they're just a different store's take on what's already trendy. And after it's made its run through stores like these, you might end up finding it in your even more affordable stores such as Target. You can get the plastic chair with wooden legs at Target for $48.99. And if you really want to be extra, I found this chair on AliExpress. You can get a set of 4 of them for $27. That's like $7 a chair. In a recent video, I went through like the differences of why there's such a range in cost and why things cost more to get them from the original source versus the replication. I'm not going to go through that all again, but I will link that video below if you want to learn more. So that's just a very brief rundown of where trends come from, how they get started, how they trickle their way down through the stores that you and I might shop at, and sets us up for a good place to understand where trends are going to be going in the next year. So knowing that that whole process does take time, an easy way to predict the future is just seeing what these kind of high-level designers are doing and know that if it's trendy there, it's gonna make its way into a store that you might shop at later on. That's one way to predict. And another way we can predict is that somehow fashion and trends have been on this like 20-year cycle where something comes back every 20 years. We can look at decades like the 60s and the 80s. They were super bright and poppy and colorful, and even like the early 2000s. Everyone was wearing rainbow skinny jeans. Bright colors are just in. And then if we look at like the off decades, like the 70s and the 90s, those were more muted, kind of less bright tones. Even the 2010s, we were into minimalism, black and white, very simple colors. But if we know anything about how that 20 cycle works, that kind of gives us some insight onto what the 2020s might look like. But that's just like a super brief rundown of trends and how we know where they come from and how we can kind of guess where they're going. So I think this sets us up for a really good place to start looking at that article about trends that are gonna be trendy, supposedly. So take it away, future me. Okay, so the article we're gonna be looking at is from Apartment Therapy, and it is called "We Asked 80 Designers What Homes Will Look Like in 2021, and Here's What They Said." I don't know who these 80 designers are, but I am curious to hear from them. As soon as anybody ever says, this is what it's gonna be, I'm instantly like, oh yeah? Is it? Is it? So I'm very ready to give you my thoughts if I don't agree. So let's just jump right into it. So they've broken this down into 9 different points, or 9 different trends that we're gonna be seeing. Actually, I can't math. I think there's 9 trends and 1 speed round. So anyways, first one, jumping right off, here is what materials they think are gonna be big in 2021, and the things on their list are vegan leather, concrete, boucle, and travertine. Yeah, 100% I agree with this already. Something that's not on their list that we saw like really blow up last year is cane and rattan. Again, those are really natural materials, light woods, things like that that are soft. I should state the reason that they have these things on their list is because they say that people are craving a sense of calm, meaning they want warm and rich textures. Which I guess makes sense. A lot of chaos going on. We need something like calming to look at. Boucle was like just at the end of last year was really becoming big. CB2 was doing a lot of boucle stuff. Restoration Hardware was. If you caught my video where I attempted to DIY a boucle chair, you can check that out, linked above and below. It went sort of alright. But I think that stuff, as we're seeing it sort of show up in these bigger stores like CB2, it's only gonna keep going as it goes into the more affordable stores going forward. Concrete, this one, I don't know how I feel about this. I think that things that are concrete-esque, such as the plaster wall and stucco wall, definitely will be big, but as far as like gray concrete, I don't know. I feel like it feels a bit harsh, and I feel like it had its moment back when copper and marble were really in. I think that was the concrete era. Everyone was making things out of concrete. I call myself out for that. We have a lot of concrete DIYs, and I think it feels a little cold, so I don't know. Unless it's, you know, dyeing concrete warmer tones, that I can see, but the harsh gray concrete, I don't know if I'm in on this one. Travertine, funny, because I literally got a travertine coffee table not that long ago, and I hadn't seen much of it until that point, so I think that's when that one is definitely just starting and it's going to blow up. So that's a stone, but it's a warm stone, so I see how that can definitely fall into a trend that we're seeing. Okay, they say that palettes are going to continue to get earthier and rawer and made of more natural materials, and again, I agree. I think there's this large cultural shift to a more like eco mindset, which I think reverts back to using a lot of natural materials too, such as like cottons and linens, and I am all here for that. And lastly, on this natural materials point, they have a note about how houseplants is not slowing down anytime soon. They say the monstera, and what else did they list? Birds of paradise are going to be huge this year. This one, I sort of disagree with. I know, plants are literally like our brand on this channel, but just from what I'm seeing in style, I don't know if they're necessarily out of style, but I don't know if they're gonna keep growing at the rate they did in previous years. I actually think things like dried grasses and things like dried eucalyptus, things I don't even know what the word for is, but these like stick looking cuttings that I will show pictures of here, I think those are what's going to be more in style. They're really easy to take care of and they're a bit softer on the eye than like a really intense green. So honestly, that's what I think we're gonna see more of versus the very rich green tropical houseplants. But I mean, those are definitely still in style. Okay, point number 2. This is a sentence and not a single point. Thrown for a loop already. Okay. Point number 2 is that most designers agree customization has become and will continue to be increasingly popular because people have been spending more times in their homes. Yes, 100% agree. And also, I'm a huge fan of this being a trend because customization usually involves DIY. That's what I love to do. That's what our brand is. So DIYing, being in style, here for it. Put me on the list. I'm ready. I'm ready. They say that since the pandemic hit, people have been forced to take a better look at their homes and if they really like their spaces and things they want to change up in their spaces. They say that designers are getting higher and higher requests for custom made pieces. Designers are seeing higher and higher requests for bespoke cabinetry, so like custom made cabinets, and like I totally get this one because people are home, working from home, doing school from home. They're seeing all the stuff they have and wanting to kind of hide that a little better. I think in past years, exposed shelving where you showed everything was totally in. I think the opposite, people want to put doors on stuff now. As we're seeing, like the IKEA trend of putting doors on IKEA products that didn't have them is wildly huge and successful. We're seeing things like the curio cabinet come back in style, which is basically like a fancy display case. It's a way to kind of take all the things you have and just make them look nicely displayed on a shelf instead of just around your home. So I totally see that as a trend, and I see that as a lot of great DIY opportunities. More on customization, they predict that accent walls are going to come back in a huge way, and this is definitely because painting a wall is like one of the easiest things you can do to transform a space. Anybody can do it, stand by that. But I think the difference this time around is we're going to be seeing like custom accent walls. I remember a few years ago, the solid color wall accent wall was the huge trend. You'll see rooms like this. These might seem familiar, but I think the new trend we're going to be seeing is even more texture, customized accent walls. So things like the plaster wall we've been doing, concrete walls, lime wash walls, and especially wallpaper. You're going to be seeing rooms more like this everywhere, and I think that's just because you get even more customization options with wallpaper than you do a single color, or a textured wall you get more options than a single color. So that's my prediction. I think more of these type of spaces coming up. And while we are talking about customization being a major trend, I just have to tell you about Function of Beauty because they are a hair care line that is all about customizing your beauty routine. We have worked with them before. I have been using their products now for like almost a year, and I love what it's been doing to my hair. Function of Beauty makes their stuff without sulfates, parabens, toxins, GMOs. They are vegan and cruelty-free, to name a few of the reasons why I love them. This year, my personal hair goal has been really to grow out my hair and make it as healthy as possible. I have to admit that some of this is with the help of extensions, but overall my hair is growing and feels so great. So if you've got personal hair goals as well, you can take their quiz online and customize what you get to like perfectly align with those goals that you're looking for. So on the quiz, some of the things that I selected as personal goals were like deep conditioning, hydrating, lengthening, and all of that goes into your custom-made hair care order. As you know, as your hair grows out, the ends can get a little dry and brittle, and this stuff has really been helping with hydration. I also put a little bit of bleach in my hair, as you can tell, and honestly, my hair is still so soft. So not only do I have goals about how I want my hair to look and feel, I also have personal goals about the companies that I want to invest in the upcoming years, and those are ones that put a focus on eco products. So that's another reason why I'm loving Function of Beauty. In an effort to become more eco-friendly, Function of Beauty has transitioned all of the cardboard boxes that your products come in to 100% craft recycled materials. And all of the bottles that your product come in are made from post-consumer recyclable plastic and not brand new virgin plastic. And you can also opt out of receiving the pump every time. I've been using the same one for like the past year and it's held up great. That means I get less plastic sent to me every time as well. I have the bottles customized to say function of Becky, which is really cute because in the shower this is my hair products, baby. And you can also choose color. I chose to go without dye. I just like the white. I think it looks clean. And I think it's like the rose smell, and I'm still not over this scent. I keep getting the same one because it's just so yummy smelling. So do you guys have any personal hair goals for this year? Let me know in the comments below. If you do, I would encourage you to check out Function of Beauty. If you click on the link below in the description, you will get 20% off of your first set. All right, thanks so much, Function of Beauty. Let's get back to that list. Point number 3, curved furniture will be everywhere. This one I 1000% agree with. We are already seeing it come back and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. The Mario Bellini sofa is huge. The Ligne Rosé floor, couches, and chairs are massive. All these big pieces that just look comfortable and plush and soft. The kind of kidney bean, lima bean shaped sofa from the 70s, that's back in. Anything that's round and looks comfy and like literally soft on the eyes, I don't see it going anywhere. I see it only getting bigger and better. They say that functionality and comfort is trumping what looks good in the IG post. This one I 1000% agree with. Like we've been talking about, people are home now more than they ever have been, and they're sitting on the sofas they bought for that IG post, and they're realizing if they're comfortable or not, and people are purchasing stuff that they just want to hang out in versus things they want to, you know, look beautiful, which there are things that hit both marks, like the sofas I showed earlier. So comfy, so beautiful. The Restoration Hardware Cloud Couch, that has been massive over the past I don't know how long, and I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon because it's just so freaking comfortable. I don't own one, but I can tell it's really comfortable. So people just want things that are comfortable to hang out in, and I totally get it. And I think if that's what people want, there's gonna be designers who find a way to make that trendy, and that comes in the form of like round plush sofas and chairs, and so that's only gonna be more and more of in the next year. On to the next one. Point number 4 is meditation rooms are going to be in style. They say that wellness and self-care has been a major focus this year. I mean, obviously this is 100% accurate. We are dealing with a lot as a society mentally, and taking care of your mental health is mega important, as well as your physical health. I mean, there is a literal pandemic going on. We need to be healthy and take care of ourselves. So I think finding a way to manifest that idea in our home spaces is definitely going to be a trend we are seeing. I think something interesting is at the beginning of all this, there was like this big rush into doing work from home offices and working setups, and I think we've kind of nailed that. We've got that unlocked. We've figured out how to work from home a little bit, but now we're figuring out, okay, how do I be home and put the work away? Where can I go in my house that I've been stuck in that does not remind me of work? How can I detox from all my electronics? Like, where can I go? I need a place to set up that will just let me kind of breathe, and I think that's gonna come in the form of like meditation relaxation zones. I found some pictures of spaces that already look so nice to hang out in. Do you think this is like a room that we should try and DIY and design? Would you watch that? Let me know. I think this could be fun. I really do think this is going to be a massive trend that we see continuing on. Okay, number 5. 44% of designers think that closed floor plans are going to be making a huge comeback in the future. They're saying that quarantining together has shown us that we all need our own spaces. Yeah, this one makes sense because have you tried having a business call or a FaceTime with friends in the same room as another person who's trying to do something? It's like a literal nightmare. I feel kind of like divided on this because yes, I think that, you know, having spaces in a home is more important now than ever, but do I think that like a lot of little rooms are coming back? I don't know. I mean, I remember growing up, my parents had like a sitting room or like a fancy living room. I don't think that's coming back necessarily because how useful is it? I don't know. I think maybe yes, spaces might come back more divided than like the giant one open room that we've been seeing, but I think the key is that they're gonna be useful spaces. Hello, friend. Are you coming up? Hello. Your nose is gonna be here. So speaking of having a more divided space, I think that maximalism as a concept is going to be coming back. Minimalism was very big in the 2010s. People were all about having like empty, clean spaces, getting rid of as many things as possible. Marie Kondo was massive, but I just don't know how realistic that as an idea is for everybody. I think that now that we're working from home, we have a lot more things with us and things that are necessary, so we just need a place to put them. So I think that styling your stuff is going to be very much back in style. This is just a personal opinion I'm adding on to what they said. Like if you look, for example, at a shelf like this that's very minimal, and you look at a shelf like this that's a bit more maximal, I think the second shelf is what we're going to be seeing more of, is people have things and it's like, how do I present them nicely on a shelf? Or even throwing it back to the idea of closed-in cabinets. I have a lot of things and what do I do with them, instead of I have a lot of things, I need to get rid of them. Going back to the article, they say that designers understand that renovating a whole space and putting up literal architectural walls is not easy and not cheap. So temporary dividers are going to be making a comeback. Yes, I agree with this one. You can't put a wall up in a day, so why not make a temporary wall? I mean, we've been doing that with our giant faux glass industrial walls. If you want to see how that was done, you can click on the video here and in the description below. But yeah, temporary dividers are a great solution and they're often easily DIY-able. And while I don't think they will necessarily solve the problem of sound as much as a physical wall will, I think it's going to be a visual divide that's going to help you mentally compartmentalize your home that you're spending so much time in. Going back to another point that was kind of meditation zones, having spaces for different things in the home, like this is my workspace, this is my eat space, this is my chill out space, is important now more so than ever, and like putting up dividers like this could really help. I really like this photo here. It's a really good example of how to do a visual divider with a bookshelf that's practical instead of just a room divider that's its sole purpose. Okay, on to point number 6. This one feels more of like a suggestion than like a trend. So based on past trends, they are seeing that people have overspent on single-use gadgets, window treatments, and furniture sets, and people are underspending on things like sofas, rugs, and art pieces. So let me give you my thoughts on this. There's a lot of different points here, but the first one being that furniture sets are out. I would agree. I grew up in a home where like every room had a matching set, like the bed matched the nightstands, matched the dresser, and I still don't think that we're seeing that come back. I think that having a room where every piece is a little bit different, although still cohesive, just makes it feel a little more interesting, a little more thought out, a little more custom. We're still talking about customization being huge. So for example, take a look at this living room. It's a very white neutral living room that has a lot of matching furniture. And then in contrast, take a look at this living room, which is still a very neutral kind of light living room, but all the pieces are a little bit different. You tell me which one you think is more interesting. My vote is for the second one. So talking about things that people underspend on, the art one here, I have to disagree, because I think that art is entirely subjective, and what a $10,000 painting to you might not speak to me at all and be worthless. So it's hard to put a price on what's valuable in art, in my opinion, especially considering it's so easy to DIY art, thrift art, for really low cost and have it look great in a room, in my opinion. For example, I am gonna throw up 2 photos here of very similar looking art. You tell me which one you think costs more money, the one on the left or the one on the right. The one on the left is actually an art piece by Studio McGee, and this costs just under $1,000. And the one on the right is a DIY piece by Instagram account The Coastal Oak, and it likely cost her under $50 to make this based on the tutorial. So I think, you know, there's no reason to say you should be spending more on art, in my opinion. What I will say is that I think people underthink about art instead of underspending about art. I mean, it's all, again, personal taste, but going to IKEA and picking up the first 5 pieces of art you find and putting it on a wall doesn't do nearly as much for me as going to the thrift store and picking up a cool, really interesting piece and then DIYing one and then purchasing one from a cool indie artist and building a wall that way. We have a guest for 7. Danny, come here. Can I say hi? Okay, you're gonna give all the opinions on design, right? He says orange and white only. That's the future of design. Number 7. This one's interesting because I've kind of already talked about it and I disagreed. So they say that warm minimalism is poised to be the breakout style for 2021. I mean, I gave you my thoughts on minimalism versus maximalism already, and maybe I'm just not understanding it properly, but if you look at the photo they used here of a kitchen, this does not scream minimalist to me in any way. I don't think the kitchen here is that minimalist. It has all of the utensils out on the counter. It looks like there's a lot going on here. Here are some pictures of what I would think a minimalist kitchen would look like. It has everything stacked away nicely and neatly, plain, empty surfaces, nothing that you don't need right away out on the counters. But maybe they're talking about a color palette that's a little more minimalist, and yeah, I would agree. I think that soft, relaxing tones are definitely going to be in. We've already talked about how it's relaxing and nice to look at. So yeah, I see that being a thing. Shades of white will always be in style in my opinion, but I think the different type of whites will vary based on the trend, and like they're saying, a soft creamy white is definitely going to be in, and I would agree as well. If you take a look at these living rooms, do they feel familiar? I feel like the very bright, clean, crisp white, almost a blue tone white, was definitely the trend of early 2010s. Again, going back to like the minimalism era where we all wanted super bright white everything. I think that's sort of on its way out. And if we take a look at living rooms like these that are a bit more creamy white, more beiges, more like a deeper white, and variants of shades of white, I think that's the type of white rooms that we're gonna see be more in style. Okay, number 8. When I saw this on the list, I just about screamed, because can we talk about hitting the nail on the head, or like being so like push my glasses up hipster before the times. Hold on, let me put on my hipster beanie to talk to you about a trend that we said was cool before this article said it was cool. Number 8 is fluted furniture will be everywhere. And if you don't know what fluted furniture is, let me put it to you in a word that you've probably heard on this channel before. Timbre. Wood timbre, baby, it's coming back in style. Okay, but for real. They say that traditionally we might have seen this as a wall texture, we know, but we're also seeing it come back in furniture pieces like dining tables and coffee tables and vases. It's another way to bring texture into the home. Like, we're really loving these neutral, simple colors, but we don't want them to be boring, so we're finding ways to throw in texture, like the plaster wall and timbred things, fluted furniture. We love to see it. They say that natural wood and raw blonde wood is on the rise. I love this just for the sheer fact that doing a DIY project without having to worry about standing in a color just makes it that much easier. So I mean, the smallest of reasons why I'm excited for this to be a trend. But I don't know if we're ready to get rid of the mid-century modern teak wood. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon, in my personal opinion. Take a look at both of these bathrooms. One has kind of the raw blonde wood and one is a more mid-century modern teak. I mean, I still think they both look very trendy, very modern, and could pass as like being a right now style. But let me know in the comments below, do you think MCM furniture, teak, that kind of darker wood is going anywhere anytime soon? Okay, point number 9, we are getting near the end here, folks. They asked these 80 designers and polled them what they think the biggest decade that we've had so far will be the source of inspo for this upcoming decade. I feel like people didn't read the question when they answered this one, because the winning answer was the future, which how can something that doesn't exist yet be a source of inspiration? I'm not sure. But the next highest ranking answer was the 70s, and this one, yes, 1000%, I see it happening. As we know, the 70s had a ton of like beiges and creams and browns and like muted yellows and mustards and oranges and all that fun stuff that was like really poppy in the 60s but a bit more muted. We see all those colors being trendy again, so yeah, it makes sense. The 70s is back in, baby.
Groovy, baby.
Let's look at hard facts. I'm gonna pull some pictures of literal actual rooms from the 70s and pop them up here. Take a moment, look at them, look at them. Okay, now let's pull photos from rooms that we've already talked about in this exact video. Do you see any similarities between the two? Because I totally do. So we can already see it happening, and I think it's gonna carry on. And last up, we have a speed round. These designers were pulled like a this or that design edition. I pulled some photos to help kind of explain these a little bit better. These aren't the photos that the people were shown. These are things that I pulled, so that's just coming from my perspective. But let's just go through it. Let's do it. Let's speed round this. First up is minimalism versus maximalism. This one was a big shocker for me because they chose minimalism. I mean, I get in theory minimalism is very nice, but I just don't think that's what's in style right now. Looking at these two photos, I would choose the maximalist room as what I see as being the hot trend right now. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. Next up, muted tones versus bright tones. I feel like I'm doing the Macarena every time I do this. Muted tones versus bright tones. Muted tones won, and for this one, I do agree. I think, like we've talked about, we want things that are easy to look at and soft and comfortable and relaxing, and you find that more in muted tones. But like I said, nothing wrong with bright tones if that's what you like. that's what you like. Next we have wallpaper versus paint. Wallpaper one, I also agree with this one. I think people, like we've talked about, want that kind of custom aspect more now than ever, and you can get more options out of a wallpaper than you can out of just a paint color, because while there are like unlimited amount of colors in the rainbow, at the end it's one shade, versus a wallpaper or even like a textile or like a mural or even like, yeah, mural done with paint. I think you just get even more variety and customization out of that than you do with one single color. Gallery wall versus one single art piece. One single art piece won on this one. This one I don't really have a solid opinion either way. I think both of them have their merits and would work well if done right in whatever space. I think the gallery wall will always have a place to go because it's so good at like filling up a space, and especially going around a TV, or I mean there's just so many uses for a good gallery wall. And I think maybe how we place the gallery wall and what goes in the gallery wall might change over the time, but I think the gallery wall in theory kind of always be in style. That's my opinion. And very last we have bar cart versus bar cabinet. Bar cabinet won, and I 1000% agree. Honestly, and this might be taboo to say, I have never liked a bar cart. I've never been a fan of them. I just feel like they look crowded and messy, and I think more often than not, I'm just guessing, people have them for style over use. And I don't like the idea of like cups and things that you eat out of just sitting out, not being used and collecting dust. And then when you go to use them, you have dusty martini glasses, and that's kind of gross. I don't know, not my thing. It's never really been my thing. So yeah, the bar cabinet I see winning, and especially because like we've talked about closed-in storage coming back, we want to just hide the clutter in our lives and make things seem cleaner. So I totally see why this one won. All right, that is it guys. We made it through the list, made it through all the predictions for 2021 trends. I am so curious if you agree with any of these points. I mean, turns out I agreed with a lot of them, most of them, and it really has got my brain moving of like DIYs I can do that align with these trends. So if there's anything in particular that we talked about today that you want to see us DIY, please let me know, because I would be so happy to do so. And a final reminder that these are just fun trends. They're not the end all be all of what you have to do or should do. Do whatever your heart desires, whatever makes you happy, and your home should look however you want your home to look. Thanks so much for joining me today guys. I hope you learned a little bit more, and if you found any of this interesting or want to learn more about DIY and design, consider subscribing to this channel, because we have so much exciting stuff coming up for the new year, and I hope you all are having a great start to your new year. I will talk to you next time. Bye guys.